Back in the day, car shows and car meets were made famous by the Max Power magazines and events, a place where car enthusiasts could showcase their modified and highly tuned cars. Now, I did attend a few shows over the years myself, but I never had the time to actually submit my own car to one of these car shows. Also, being in the far north of Scotland, it's hard to always get to these car shows because the main ones are quite far away, but there is one that comes around once a year called the Highland Track and Show in Golspie. But seeing as my car is used as a daily driver, there's a few niggly issues need fixed before I start to put my car alongside any other of these showcase cars. And typical for me, leaving for the last minute, I've got a collection of mornings, afternoons and evenings over the next 7 days to get all this work done. Sadly, giving the car a good wash just won't cut it this time. This is going to take a lot more work. So I decided to put the car in the garage washed because it's going to be an axle stand for the next few days. I'm taking all the wheels off. The guy, Sean, who refurbed the wheels on Ibiza a few months ago, he's going to do these wheels for me as well. They are a bit scuffed up. They've got a lot of stone chips on them because of the way they're designed. The stones kind of hit the sides of them and chip the paint off. He's going to powder coat them. He's also going to fix the dent in one of the wheels from hitting a pothole from last year. So we'll get that straightened out. And while that's all happening, I'm going to be tackling a number of other jobs at the same time. And yeah, this isn't really a massive to-do list, but there's a few jobs in there that are going to take a couple of days to complete, such as the front brake calipers being painted and the rust on the rear of the cells being removed and resprayed. So it's time for me to get an early night and then make a start tomorrow morning. Yes, that is still the alloy wheels sat in my garage on a Monday afternoon. Sadly, Sean can't take them to respray them this week. He's had to stay at home with his kids because his wife's got COVID, so he's not been able to do any resprays for wheels. So we'll have to do something ourselves to try and fix that. Anyway, straight onto the engine bay, and we're going to completely revamp this engine bay, removing all the wee rusty clips that are here, and also just doing a deep clean on all the nooks and crannies that gather dirt and grime over the years. A new purchase here as well, this hose clip removal tool, which is brilliant. I wish I'd got this way sooner rather than using pliers the whole time. I wasn't planning this, but I took the pipework for the induction kit off and I thought I'd give it a spray with some gloss black paint outside in the sun. And it seemed the deeper I dug into this engine bay, the more things I uncovered that were letting it down, like this rusty bracket, which I sprayed black as well.
Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche, we're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow.
Tuesday night now, and it's time to tackle these front brake calipers that have faded over the years. I've refreshed the back brake calipers on the car, so I need to make sure the front ones match perfectly. The good thing about the calipers on the front of the Cupra is you can remove the actual housing of the caliper without disconnecting any brake pipes, so you can take off the 4 bolts and the 2 sliding pins, and then this whole red assembly comes away separate and leaves all the rest of the system pressurised and still intact. Even though the splash guard on the back of the brakes was not too bad, it had only been changed last year with the suspension, I thought I might as well just refresh it. I had a pair of brand new ones, and you can see the splash guard on the opposite side was in even worse condition. It was falling to bits.
You're still my favorite queen of the night, a friend that's drive off again. Let us drive off again. Let us where we fall once know what's right, my friend that's right.
Next up, a really straightforward job of just changing over the R logo on the sills. Now, these R logos have been just gradually changing from the standard Cupra for the Seats across to the R logo from the Golf R instead. I just think it looks a lot more modern. The only one I can't change in the car actually is the one on the Speedo, but apart from that, everything else has been changed over.
Let's drive off again. Let us drive off again. One for the rusting, for the adjusting, one for the tired hands, one for the letdowns, all thanks to this old town, one for the shattered plans. You're still my
Now I did the LED light strip mod on my car a good while ago now, and it's on the channel as well on a video if you want to see how to do that. Nighttime it looks amazing, but through the day the red does stand out a bit too much. So I thought what I'd do is remove all the light strips, hang them on the washing line, and then use some tinting spray just to darken the colour so they don't stand out as much. And with the sun shining bright, I thought it was a good time now to get the brake calipers sanded down, get all the loose rust and paint off them, and then get them ready for spraying. While I was doing the engine bay a couple of days ago, I thought the horns looked a bit sorry for themselves, bit of rust around the screws, so I removed all the screws from them, took them outside, sanded them back, and then rust treated them and then sprayed them black afterwards. At the same time, I rust treated the calipers as well. Taking a wire brush around the brake discs, I removed all the loose rust from them and then masked up the areas I didn't want to spray with black paint, and I just wanted to have this nice gloss black paint around the hub of the brake disc so this would look better behind the alloy wheels. As the etch primer dried on the calipers, I thought it'd be a good time to give the wheels a good deep clean, which turned out brilliantly for them, and then to try and sort this dent, which I really can't show on YouTube. It is a stupid thing to do and didn't actually work at all, so don't waste your time. Next morning, sun's out and I'm spraying the alloy wheel that's got the buckle on it just to try and cover over the loose lacquer and the mess that's there already. As you can see, the dent is still clearly visible, but I can't do much about that. Also a good time to do one finishing coat of primer on the brake calipers. So now it's time to tackle all the wee bits and pieces that are kind of half finished because I'm leaving the things outside to dry just now. It's an ideal time to get these things done. So the horns that I've got fixed up, so they weren't actually the rusty bits, it was the screws inside and the rusty bits. So I cleaned off the rust marks off the yellow paint of the horns. As you saw, they're all sprayed now and black paint and lacquer on top, so hopefully they won't rust for a wee while anyway. And then the wee bit of gloss black that's missing off the grille badge as well, that's been fixed so it's less noticeable. So I'll get them back on the car, and I never got a chance to do it the other night, but I'm going to get the seats out and I'm going to get the backs of the gloss back seats, got them all polished up nicely. Now the part I was dreading was tackling these rear arches that were rusting at the bottom of the sill here. Taking off the wheel arch liner a bit to access it a bit better, and you can see the amount of dirt that's accumulated in the back of here. It's unreal how much dirt was actually found in here. I didn't think it'd be this bad, but something to watch out for if you've got one of these cars yourself. Now the idea here was just to grind back as much of the rust as possible to get fresh metal and then use a rust converter on it afterwards. So we're making progress today. We've got the seats out on the driveway, just now getting polished up. There's some really quite deep scuffs on the back of one of them, so I think that's Millie's feet over the years scuffing the back of them. So I've actually applied with my finger a bit of gloss black paint just really lightly over the scuffs and then I'm going to machine polish that off, and hopefully that just fills all the kind of wee white bits of the scuffs in with the black paint. I've also got the calipers exposed on the back of the Ibiza just now, so the idea was that when I was doing the calipers for the Leon, I could finally do the calipers on the back of the Ibiza and use some of the 2K lacquer to treat them and the Leon calipers all at the same time, because once you, this is the stuff here, once you use the reactivator button on the bottom of the can and activate it, you only have a limited time to actually use the whole can before it just sets properly inside it. So it's way better than normal lacquer, it's a lot more hard wearing, but you do have that limited window. So I want to make sure that all the things that are going to be using that lacquer available to start spraying immediately at the same time, rather than having them like a week apart. And the rear arches here, we've got them ready for primer and paint, and then lacquer as well, using the same 2K lacquer as the calipers. I've got a bit of cardboard in there just to mask off the inside of the arch. So it's just this main bit here I'm going to be painting, and then just try and blend it as best I can into the door once I remove all this plastic and masking tape. So yeah, lots to get on with, and we're running short of time now. This is Friday afternoon and the show is on Sunday morning, so let's crack on and keep rattling on with all these jobs in the car. Tackling these seats outside away from the car is a lot easier than trying to do it in the back of the car, and you also get a lot more light on to see if you're actually fixing the issues. And surprisingly, some of those deeper scratches did actually get sorted by covering them with a bit of black paint and then buffing them off. There is some wee scuffs in there that are a bit deeper, but generally it looks 10 times better than it did before. I think in future when I've got Millie in the back of the car, I'll just have to put some extra large socks over her shoes. I've been pretty fortunate with weather here. Saturday morning and the sun's out again, so including the calipers for the back of the Ibiza, it's time to get all these red painted parts lacquered up. So a kind of hanging mechanism between two wheelie bins on the driveway, and then this special 2K lacquer to coat all these different parts. And while they're all drying outside, it's time to coat the rear of the sills with the custom matched spray paint. Now with those freshly cleaned alloys, I thought it'd be a good time to polish them up properly, get a nice smooth surface, and then apply just some cheap ceramic coat to them to make them 10 times easier to wash. You'll notice there's only 3 wheels here because we're still waiting on that 4th wheel to properly dry. To apply lacquer to it, it might not get a chance to get ceramic coated, sadly. Sadly, the good weather wouldn't last all day. The heavens opened that afternoon, as they always do in the north of Scotland here, and it was a good time to get in the garage and start polishing up the paintwork and the glass on the car. Using a machine polisher on multiple panels and glasswork, I just buffed the whole car up, and then once that was wiped off, applied some good quality wax. This took a good few hours, which took me into the early evening. So it's 6:30 at night, Saturday night, and we've only got a few hours now to the show tomorrow morning, heading off quite early. I think it's about 6:30 in the morning actually, so 12 hours from now we're heading off. But I've got a stop I'm doing just now. I've got a charity dinner dance tonight that I knew was arranged, so I've just obviously been trying to work around it, but got a stop I'm doing now and head off for that. So we'll be back later on, late tonight actually be back, and then I'll get the last few bits and pieces finished. So I'll give a chance for the rear arches to dry. The lacquer's just on there just now, and hopefully that's all dry. I'll just need a wee bit of sanding back to get the rough overspray off, and then a polish, and it should blend it all in. I'm actually pleased how it's turned out. It's turned out a lot better than I expected, and it's really a lot less noticeable to the eye than that rusty patch that was there before. The front half of the car is all been machine polished and coated as well. Just leaving the back of the car to do until I've done the rear arches and there's no more spray, and then we'll do the roof and the back doors and the boot with the polish machine and then get them coated as well. Put the brakes back on. So they've got the caliper brackets in here, but the main calipers are inside the house because there's quite a thick coat of the lacquer on them. So I'm hoping the warmth of the house will get that dried out a lot faster. Get them on, get the brakes set up again. Wheels on. This wheel is looking marginally better than what it was. The lacquer isn't perfect. You can still see the kind of cracked lacquer effect through, but I can't do much about it. It just have to be the way it is. Once they're on the car and the car's still jacked up, I'll give them a quick coat with wheel dressing, with tyre dressing as well. There's a few other tiny wee bits and pieces here and there, but yeah, it could be a late night tonight, a few hours in bed and then out in the morning at 6:30. So I'll catch you in a wee while. Anyway, cheers. So yeah, that was the time in the background up there. It is 11:30, so in 7 hours I've got to be down to meet the guys at 6:30 for the start of the convoy down to the Golspie show. So I've got my brakes here ready to start taking the paint off the face here before they go back on. I also need to clean up that thread as well, make sure there's no paint inside the threads, and a quick wipe round inside the interior, and that should be us. So let's see if we can get this done in a reasonable time because the 7 hours is counting down pretty fast. As I've done previously on the brakes for the Ibiza, whenever you're refurbishing brakes, it's always good to clean them up properly before you put them back on the car. Clean up all those threads as well, make sure they're free from corrosion so that when you want to take them off again in the future, it's a lot easier. Refitting the brakes is really straightforward, obviously just making sure you're double checking all the bolts to make sure they're properly tightened up, and you'll notice the new gloss black centre part of the brake disc here now looking loads better. I'm really pleased how these brakes turned out compared to that faded pink colour they were before. Now onto the home stretch of doing the rest of the polishing on the back of the car and adding a coat of wax. And then obviously there's wee finishing touches such as a wee bit of self-promotion of the North Coast Workshop YouTube channel on the car itself. Oh, and not forgetting the updated R badge for the engine bay with the wee red accent. So probably from lack of sleep, I totally forgot to turn the microphone on for this last part here. It's just basically me saying that that's the car now finished. I'll put some footage of the finished result of the car on screen just now. And it's 3:30 in the morning, so I now have 3 hours to get to bed, get some sleep, and then get back up to meet the guys for the convoy to go down the show in the morning. The show itself will be covered in a future video, which I'll leave when it's ready, linked on screen just now for you. Thanks for watching to the end, much appreciated. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, hit subscribe to catch more videos like this in future, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Queen of the night, a friend that's right.